According to brand new polling from several pollsters, Donald Trump has a huge lead in the Rust Belt. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back again with a new video today. It is time that we talk about the 2024 presidential election, because everyone, bombshell polling from the Rust Belt, have indicated that the national polling that we have been seeing the past few months or so, it appears that they may not be off 100%. In fact, there's some statewide polls that indicate that these polls that show Trump winning in a landslide, possibly more realistic than we originally expected. Now let me be clear about all of this. One, we're in October of 2023. That means we're a year away from the election. These polls, they're not going to indicate what's going to happen next year, but they could show us, as of now, what's potentially going to happen next year. Two, these polls, they're smaller sample sizes, so you can't take them with a grain of salt, larger margin of errors, yada, yada, yada. And three, we don't know what's going to happen the next year. So these polls are more than likely going to be outdated, probably by the time I even make this video. So those are the disclaimers. Just a year away from the election. These are smaller sample sizes, but they do indicate some very interesting trends. Now, before we continue with today's video, I hope you enjoy these type of videos. If you do, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Guys, just for $1 a month, you could join Real American. This is the best way to support the daily content that we all know and love. So I hope and recommend you join the channel today. Alright everybody, again, last disclaimer, these polls are as of now. They're not going to indicate what's going to happen, or that's not what's going to happen next year, probably. But they do indicate that the polling data we're seeing from national polls, they may not be too far off from reality. So let's get into it. Alright, let's start with Iowa. This is a state that most people can agree upon. Trump is more than likely going to win. Well, according to a new Emerson College poll, Donald Trump has a 10-point lead over President Biden. Just to give a bit of perspective, Trump won the state of Iowa just by under 9 points, around 9-point victory in the great state, or actually 8-point, yeah. So he won it by around 8 points, just over. So according to this Emerson College poll, that's about a 2-point shift to the right, which on paper doesn't seem that big. It's like, okay, the 2-point shift to the right, whoop-de-doo. Well, if you just apply the poll from Iowa to Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, just for swings, Trump would win the presidency. And again, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but just saying this one poll from Iowa shows a 2-point shift to the right, which is nearly identical to what we're seeing in many polls. In fact, a bit less than what we're seeing nationally with a 3, 4, 5-point shift for Trump nationally. But just, one poll. I'm like, okay, maybe it's a fluke, it's just a small sample size, it's very early on. But then a poll from Ohio came out, from Emerson. Donald Trump is leading Biden by 12. This sparked my interest because the same poll had Senator Sherrod Brown, who is a Democrat, barely ahead of Bernie Moreno and barely behind Matt Dolan and LaRose. So I thought, okay, this poll also tested the Ohio Senate race, around an 8, 9, 10-point gap between the Senate race and the presidency. What's important is the margin. Well, Trump, he won the state of Ohio by just over 8 points. That's a 4-point shift. And Ohio is very similar to Michigan and Pennsylvania. It just is. They are very similar states, regionally, demographically, all of it. they have a 4-point shift to the right, which is very similar to some of these polls that have Trump doing 4 or 5 points better nationally. But I thought, okay, it's 2 polls from states that, they're safe Republican. Trump's going to win them basically no matter what. I thought, okay, it's just whatever. But then this came out. Trump +2 in Wisconsin. We're going to get to the statewide polling from 2020 in a minute, but this is what really piqued my interest of all of this. Trump +2. That is a 2.5 to 3 point shift from 2020. If you apply that to all the swing states, that would give Trump, Wisconsin, a 3-point shift, all right? Let's just say 3 points. Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, potentially even Nevada. Just from Wisconsin. But I thought, okay, when you look at 2020 polling, this is huge. But then came what could very well be the most stunning poll of this year so far. Michigan. No, your eyes are not deceiving you. According to this poll from Michigan, Donald Trump leads Joe Biden by 7. That is a 10-point shift from 2020. For those wondering, if you applied a 10-point shift to every state, you're talking about Virginia being competitive. You're talking about New Hampshire flipping, Maine, Minnesota, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia. You're talking about New Mexico being competitive. That's when I realized, okay, what's going on here? A 10-point shift. But even gets better. Pennsylvania. Trump +9 over Joe Biden. In the Senate race, Bob Casey is up by 8 over the Republican McCormick. That's a 17-point gap from the Senate race, which was kind of expected because Bob Casey is a very strong candidate. But a 9-point victory. That's around a 10 to 11-point shift from 2020. You're talking about Virginia flipping at that point if every state swung the exact same amount. Hell, you're talking about New Jersey, possibly Connecticut, Rhode Island, them being within 10 points. But you start just, if you use a national swing, again, we just got to see what happens. But either way, a 10-point shift in Pennsylvania and Michigan. This is just absolutely insane because we've never seen Trump even up by more than like 1 or 2. Maybe like once in a great while there was a Trump +1 or 2 poll in Pennsylvania and Michigan or Wisconsin. But never up by 2 to 9 points. We never by almost double digits. And that's what made me think, hold on. What did the same polls from 2020 show? Let's start with Iowa. The average polling aggregate had Donald Trump winning the state of Iowa by 1.5. And for those that say, oh, well, that's just the aggregate, Emerson College had Trump only winning the state of Iowa by 2. The same poll that has Trump winning the state of Iowa by 10. Again, I know it's 2020, we saw what happened in 2022, but that's a 10-point shift from Emerson's last poll in 2020 in the state of Iowa. And even the polling aggregate around a 10-point or 8-9-point shift. Ohio. Emerson College, Trump +12. Back in 2020, the polling had Trump lose or winning the state by just by 1. 1 point. Hell, Emerson had Biden win the state by 1. That's an 11 to 13 point swing from 2020. Starting to notice a trend here. Iowa was around a 9 to 10 point shift from 2020, according to the polling aggregate, and even Emerson. Ohio, around 11 to 13 point shift from the polling. Then Wisconsin. This is notoriously a horrible state polling-wise. It usually favors Democrats. They had Biden winning the state of Wisconsin by 8. The polling aggregate did. Trump's up by 2 in this Emerson College poll. Emerson College had Trump down by 7 last time. Basically identical to the polling aggregate. That's a 10-point shift. 9 to 10-point shift. Nearly identical to Iowa and Ohio. Just keep going. Michigan. They had Biden plus 6. That was around a 4-point... Biden plus 6. This poll had Trump winning the state by 7. That is a... What is that? 13-point shift? You can just keep going. One more. Pennsylvania. Biden plus 3. Emerson. Trump plus 9. That's a 12-point shift. Yeah, 13 here. Excuse me. Michigan was a 13-point shift if you included the polling from last year or 2020 to this year. Yeah, that's right. Notice a trend? Basically, all of these states, compared to 2020 polling, had a 10 to 13-point shift if you compare the same polls or hell, even the aggregate. What does that tell you? That just the same polls are showing a massive shift towards Donald Trump. And I know people are going to say, well, 2022 debunked the idea that Republicans always overperform. Here's the difference between 2022 and 2024. This time around, you have Donald effing Trump on the ticket. 2016, the polling sucked with him on the ticket, in favor of him, mind you. 2020, even worse. Trump is not your average Republican. When you compare 2018 to 2022, the polling misses were kind of similar. They weren't that big of misses. Some circumstances it favored Republicans, but either way, Donald Trump being on the ticket does raise a lot of questions about the polling. And the fact that these same polls have Trump up by 10 in Iowa, 12 in Ohio, when they had him up by like 1. That is a 10-point shift in polling. 10 to 12-point shift in the polling. What is Trump up by nationally, according to some polls? They have him up by 4 or 5 in some of them. That's around a 10-point shift nationally from 2020. So what does this mean? This means that, okay, I don't believe Trump's going to win Pennsylvania by 9. I just don't. Same thing with Michigan by 7. But they all indicate one thing. Or 2 things. A, this is the best Trump has ever polled. B, the polling swings in nearly every swing state from 2020, just look at the polling, is nearly identical to each other. Some bad polling misses like especially Wisconsin, Iowa, and Ohio are basically the same, swing-wise, as Pennsylvania and Michigan. Listen, I'm not saying that Trump's going to win by 12 nationally or anything crazy. I'm just saying that, hey, it's insane to count out Donald Trump when the new statewide polling, which, by the way, many dissims have been saying, just wait for statewide polling. 5 statewide polls show nearly the same trend. Trump is polling the best he's ever polled. It's factual. Again, it's only October of 2023, but people should not just ignore this, just completely write this off as, oh, it's just early. That's part of it. It is absolutely early, but even back in late 2019, Trump was never polling this high. He's never polled this high. So just take with a grain of salt of Trump can't win. Just take that with a grain of salt because I think that's absolutely ludicrous. But anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Thank you so much. Godspeed to all of you.